Hey, guess what's happening on this week's episode of the Beating Diabetes Lifestyle Podcast with your friend and host, Oscar Camejo.
Hey, folks, welcome. So, let me ask you a question. What do burgers, fries, French fries, of course, potato chips, hot dogs, fried chicken, a bunch of fried foods, fried fish, lemonade, sweet teas, cakes, pies, bagels, donuts, brownies, sweet tea, soda, and lemonade have in common? Let me ask you that question. So, first thing that comes to mind may be these are junk foods, right? Well, you know what? Here in the United States, these things are part of what's considered the standard American diet. And it's sad. That's right. S.A.D. Maybe you've heard it before. Well, you know what? A lot of people have challenges when it comes to their eating habits and their cravings. Trust me, I've been there, done that. That was me. So I wanted to take this episode to really help you out. There are a lot of people who follow this podcast and follow me on social media. They have a lot of questions. They want to know, how do I break cravings and bad habits? I know there's some problem foods and things that I should not be eating, but what can I do? So, in this week's episode, I want to talk to you about the risk factors surrounding the standard American diet, that S.A.D diet, and what you can do about it. Maybe you're not even realizing where to go from here. Perhaps you've been diagnosed with prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, or maybe you just want to avoid the risk of ever developing these conditions. So, this episode is for you, my friend. So, I thank you for joining me in this week's episode. Stay tuned. This is going to be a really good episode. You don't want to miss it. So, folks, welcome to this week's episode of the Beating Diabetes Lifestyle Podcast with me, your host, Oscar Camejo. My goal is to help diabetics and non-diabetics make lifestyle changes to reverse type 2 diabetes. Listen, folks, I wholeheartedly believe that you can reverse type 2 diabetes and prediabetes. It happened in my life. It happened in my situation. And so that's why when I started this channel, why I started social media, why I started the Facebook community, the podcast, and so forth. I started it because I later learned in life, in my journey, along my journey, that you can reverse type 2 diabetes. But at first, I didn't know you can even do that. I had never heard of the term. So when I started telling my story on social media, specifically on TikTok, people were just gravitating to my story, of beating diabetes. So that's why I created the Beating Diabetes Lifestyle community, because I really want to create a greater awareness of diabetes. A lot of people don't know that they may be at risk of developing prediabetes or type 2 diabetes. So they're confused, they're stuck, and they simply do not know where to start and how to jumpstart their lifestyle of good health. So I wanted to take a moment to share with you a message that came to me from one of my TikTok followers. This is Impossible99 is their social media handle. They wrote, I was diagnosed last Friday with type 2 diabetes. I am determined to reverse it. Thank you for your videos. Thank you, Impossible99, for writing in your comment. I really appreciate when folks such as yourself write in and tell me about their journey. You're just at the beginning. Today is the beginning of the rest of your life. I'll say that to you, Impossible99. And I will tell you, things are possible. Turning your life around and your health around is possible. And for those of you all who may be tuning in from all around the world, whether you're here in the United States or not, or in another country, I really appreciate you all signing in, signing up for the newsletter that I have, and getting communication. from me and following this podcast. I really appreciate it. And so don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment and rate this show because that's only is going to help the show to continue growing. So again, thank you, Impossible 99, for submitting your comment. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You know, when people come to me and they're wanting to know, well, how do I start? One of the first things I ask them is, what is your diet like? What is your eating lifestyle like? And like so many people, including myself, there was a time where we ate a lot of quote unquote junk food. And most of us, we know what the junk foods are. As I mentioned earlier at the top of the show, the burgers, the fries, the chips, the sweet teas, the sodas, and the ultra processed foods like cold cuts and the hot dogs and all kinds of stuff that we put in our body. A lot of us know that we need to just cut back on those things and in some cases completely eliminate it. I'm all for cutting things out that are not beneficial to our health. Because listen, when I was 268 pounds, folks, this is what 2000 between 2014 and 2018, I had ballooned up to 268 pounds. I mean, I was never that big. I didn't grow up being big and being large and dealing with health issues. But, the more and more I just started eating junk food and every night going to bed and having like a Pop Tart or peanut butter and jelly sandwich or, oh my gosh, uh, let's see what I was eating a bunch of pizza. Man, pizza Thursdays. And I would have 4 and 5 slices back to back of pizza, and I was taking multivitamins and I thought I was being healthy because to me at the time, healthy was meaning I wasn't sick, right? I had the occasional cold once a year, maybe. So I thought I was healthy. I was still big though. I had gained this weight because I was eating a lot of high processed food, ultra processed food, high sugary foods, eating a lot of fried foods and eating out like 3 times a day, even 4 times a day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, you name it. It was all kind of stuff that I was eating, and I was not eating a lot of vegetables, folks. I'll be honest. I did like fruit, but I wasn't eating a lot of fruit. And so my health, started to take a decline. And in 2018, I was diagnosed with pre-diabetes, right? But I didn't take it serious enough. I was like, okay, well, at least I didn't develop type 2 diabetes. I don't have any risk of getting a leg amputated or any other complications. So fast forward to August 2020. Yeah, August 2020, I had a diabetes episode. I was sluggish and frequently urinating. If you've been following the podcast, I've been telling this story at almost every opportunity, almost every show I talk about it. So I had developed just chronic fatigue, poor sleeping habits. And I went to the doctor and they did some blood work. And that was like the middle of the week, one week. And then I got a call from the doctor that Sunday saying, hey, you need to rush to the emergency room because your blood sugar is elevated and you just need to get to the hospital. So I went to the emergency room, checked in, they admitted me, and it was scary. This was in the height of the pandemic at the time. And at this time, you hear about people going into the hospital and not coming out. And so that was a fear. You heard about people with diabetes and other complications and COVID making things a lot worse. The pandemic was supposedly making things a lot worse for a lot of people. So going into the hospital, they kept me for about 5 or 6 days. And it was in the hospital that I learned that I had finally developed type 2 diabetes, straight up, full blown type 2 diabetes. And it was scary, folks. I mean, it was real scary. And I remember making a decision that I needed to turn my life around. I really needed to make some changes. And I didn't know where to begin. Now, mind you, while I'm in the hospital, taking insulin shots and them giving me pills and I'm having to trust what they say, people coming in and out every other hour checking my blood, and I had all kind of IVs because I was also dehydrated going into the hospital. So it was a whole bunch of stuff going on, folks. High blood pressure, high cholesterol. Man, they just had to really get me stable because I could have died, folks, if I didn't take my health serious enough. And so I'm grateful that I did go through the hospital experience because from that point on, I had to make a decision and to turn my life around. And I'm glad I did. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I changed overnight. You're talking about trying to break habits that I have formulated for years, eating habits and eating patterns that consisted of high sugary foods. I mean, I used to drink fruit juices like nobody's business, 3 and 4 cups, 5 and 6 cups of orange juice at a time. And it was just, I just couldn't get enough of it. So, just going through those challenges and that challenging time, it was a wake up call for me. And so the reason why I started this podcast is to help people who are maybe at risk of pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes, and you want to turn your life around. I don't want you to get to the point where you have a diabetes episode where you have to be rushed to the hospital or be dropped off at the hospital and you don't know if you're going to make it out or not. And so coming to this point where we are right now and this episode, which is talking about the sad realities of the standard American diet and how to break those unhealthy eating habits and eating patterns that we all have dealt with. Listen, I'm not a physician. I'm a guy who went through some of the similar situations that many of you and many of your loved ones are going through. So I didn't go to school for this. I simply lived a lifestyle that helped push me in the wrong direction when it comes to my health. And folks, I wish I had taken my health serious enough, especially guys, I'm talking to you. It's really important for us to take our health seriously, ladies as well. Um, because you know what? We have one life to live, folks. And the things that we put in our bodies, I say the standard American diet, but this affects people across the globe. Man, do you know I looked up a statistic the other day about just the worldwide impact that diabetes is having on people. There's people walking around with diabetes and they don't even know it. They're walking around with these health conditions and they don't even know it. They refuse to go to the doctor because everything is okay. Yeah, they may be a little overweight, but some people may not be overweight. Their body composition may be fine, but they're still experiencing challenges in their bodies. So I want to encourage you all as I share this episode with you and some of my recommendations on turning your life around. In future episodes, definitely check out my library of other content on the Beating Diabetes Lifestyle podcast. There's a whole bunch of topics, but I want to encourage you all. If I can do it, if I can lose over 80 pounds, that's the rest of the story, by the way. For those of you all who are new to this podcast, I was able to reverse type 2 diabetes. It didn't happen overnight. I was able to lose over 80 pounds. Now, that doesn't mean that it took me losing 80 pounds in order for it to be reversed. That's just in totality. I lost 268, excuse me, I was 268 and I was able to lose over 80 pounds, folks, in less than a year. I was able to get off diabetes medication, high blood pressure medication, high cholesterol medication, and some other things that were going on because, by me changing my lifestyle of what I was eating, what I was putting in my body, and what I was doing to my body in terms of exercise, things just completely turned around. Eventually, like I said, I got off meds. My doctor is the one who eventually cleared me. So I'm telling you what I know. And in most cases, diabetes can be sent into remission. It can be reversed where your blood glucose levels are returned to normal. your triglycerides, your high blood pressure, your risk of coronary disease, all that stuff can be reversed, folks. You just have to do what it takes to become serious. And you know what? There's not one magic pill, even though there's commercials that talk about weight loss pills and all this other stuff. There's not one diet that's going to magically cause you to reverse type 2 diabetes. I'm talking about a complete a complete overhaul of your lifestyle. It's going to take some hard work. I don't recommend the shortcuts to losing weight. These fad diets and all these promising or supposedly promising programs out there, exercise programs, and even some of these medications that make all these different claims. I come from the old school of hard work. You put in the work, and so you can get lasting results. Because listen, folks, if you want to live focused, fit, and feel alive every day, it's going to take work. It's going to take you really making a commitment to be serious about turning your life around. It's not going to happen overnight, my friend. I'm just serious. It's not. So I definitely want to encourage you to do what it takes to live healthy, to turn your life around. When I said that it didn't happen overnight, yeah, man, there were some weeks and days where I just felt like, man, am I going to be able to do this? The cravings were up. I still had the sugar addictions, even while I was trying to turn my life around and turn my my eating patterns around and so forth. It was tough, but I had to put in some things. I had to put some things in place in order to turn my life around. So I wanted to back up a little bit and talk a little bit more about the standard American diet. And I want to read something to you to kind of bring this all in perspective before I give you some recommendations on how to move forward. You know, um, Again, what is the standard American diet? Now, this could impact other cultures, other territories, other regions, but I'm focusing on the United States for a reason because you have the standard American diet. There may be a standard Italian diet, the standard French diet. I'm not sure, but that'd probably be a good episode to talk about some of the standard eating patterns that are contributing to high risks for diseases such as type 2 diabetes, coronary heart disease, and so forth. Well, the standard American diet is SAD, right? SAD. It is considered a modern dietary pattern afflicting American adults and children across the United States with long term damaging health consequences. So, by definition, the standard American diet consists of ultra processed foods, added sugar, artificial sugars, fat, sodium, and the consumption of fruits and vegetables, as well as whole grains, legumes, and lean protein, is greatly lacking in this diet. So let me say that again. The consumption of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, legumes, beans and so forth, and lean protein is greatly lacking in the standard American diet. So now, when you look at what you normally have before you, whether you're eating out at a restaurant or you're eating at the fast food drive through, you pick up something from the fast food place. What's sitting before you? Gave you a list of things earlier, the burgers, the fries, the hot dogs, and so forth, the pizzas, the fried chicken wings, the fried fish, and so forth. When you look at your lifestyle every day throughout the week, what is your standard food look like? Like, what do you normally eat? I really want you to take time to think about it. Man, what is it that I'm really eating? Now, I want you to be brutally honest with yourself because you know what? Changing your lifestyle around is going to require you being very serious and very open and very honest about your eating habits. Now, I do want to be sensitive. I know there's certain people who have certain eating disorders, and you may be going through some emotional attachment issues when it comes to food and so forth. There could have been some traumatic things that have happened in your life that when it comes to food, there may be certain triggers and so forth. So you may either overeat or you may undereat. I definitely want to be sensitive to you, to those of you who may be struggling with that, and maybe some of your loved ones as well. But when we're talking about just a standard way that we're eating, that a lot of people are eating, do you, like me, used to have those pizza Thursdays and you just overeat and you're not even thinking about it? I learned how to be a conscious eater. And being a conscious eater is really paying attention to what's before me, what's on my plate, what's in that bag. There's a popular burger place here in the US. I won't name it. But they dump a whole bunch of French fries in the bottom of this bag. Many of you all probably know what I'm talking about, and you can see all this grease just soaking out from underneath the bag. And then they put your burger or your hot dog in it and you're on your way. And they have a bunch of peanuts. You can eat the peanuts while you're waiting on your food, and they throw the peanut shells on the floor. You know what place I'm talking about, right? But that food, if you look at it, is prepared, especially the burgers, they're prepared in a lot of grease. The French fries, a whole bunch of saturated fat, the vegetable oils that they're cooking the stuff with. And, so imagine eating burgers 3 times a week, and in some cases, every day. And this is not to shame anybody. This is not to make you feel bad about your food choices. I just want to bring awareness to the things that we're eating. And I want people to be more conscious. I want you to be more conscious of your eating lifestyle, your eating pattern. Listen, folks, here in the US, in certain areas, in certain communities, you can find fast food everywhere. You can find a burger joint or the fried chicken places, about 3 or 4 of them in one neighborhood. That's crazy. And you don't see a lot of the health food places, the stores and grocery stores. You don't see a lot of that in certain communities. And that bothers me. I'm not going to get on my soapbox in this episode, but a lot of people are struggling. They're struggling with their eating. They're struggling with the food choices because it's all around you. Fast food, literally for $5, maybe $10, $12, $15. You can get a whole meal fast. You're on your way home from work, right? And you don't feel like cooking. You're just tired, and it's so easy to stop and grab something to eat. Hey, folks, guess what? You know what? There was a time where I would go to a fast food restaurant 3 times a day. I would go there for breakfast, lunch, and dinner because I was really busy. So, I mean, one place, I used to go to this fast food place 3 times a day. No wonder why I gained so much weight. And I would get a bagel with bacon, egg, and cheese. Oh my gosh. Or I would get like a chicken biscuit or something like that with sweet tea mixed with lemonade and hash browns. So that was for breakfast, right? Then for lunch, I would go to that same place because it was convenient. It was right down the street from my job, right? And I would get a chicken sandwich, French fries, and you guessed it, lemonade mixed with sweet tea. That's 2 trips already. Then in the evening, I would stop again and maybe pick up a salad every now and then, but the salad had fried chicken on it. And the salad dressing, I never thought about the sugar content of the salad dressing. I wasn't health conscious at that time. I was not a conscious eater. So now in between breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I would snack and get something out of the vending machine like 2 or 3 times. Chips, candy bars, mixed nuts, or all kind of stuff. So I was snacking all the time, plus eating out all the time. So talk about the standard American diet, right? That was me. I was on it. And there would be times where even, let's say, Tuesday nights was like lasagna or spaghetti night. So you're talking about still eating the fast food in the morning and for lunch, then get home and making lasagna or spaghetti. So you talk about all these carbs, all these high saturated foods, and so forth. So it was a lot going on, and so many of you all can probably relate. Looking at your own diet, looking at your own eating pattern right now, or maybe what you're trying to get out of. The thing that did it for me was, yes, going through that diabetes scare. I had to just turn things around, folks. And one of the things that I recommend is something that I did for myself. I had to really take a hard look at my environment, meaning at home. I had to look at literally what's in my cupboard, what's in my refrigerator, what's in my freezer, what's in the pantry. And to my surprise, I had a bunch of chips, a bunch of cookies, I had Pop Tarts, I had the peanut butter and jelly, I had pastries. Um, there wasn't much vegetables, there wasn't that many fruit, wasn't that much water at all, but there was a bunch of fruit juice, a bunch of soda, and um and so I just really had to forget about how much money I paid for those foods, right? I really decided at that time that it was time to just cold turkey and dump everything. I literally did it. I was like, I'm not even going to think twice about it. I am going to clean house. So I threw away everything that was junk food that I knew that was junk food, right? And I said, I'm going to start from scratch. I poured the soda down the drink. I poured the juices down the drink. I threw them all away. And I was like, man, if I'm going to do this, I got to just stop bringing that stuff in my house. So that's one of the first things I recommend for you to do if you're going through struggles when it comes to your eating, and maybe you're caught up in the standard American diet. The first things first, folks, is stop bringing that stuff home. It's so easy to grab this stuff when it's around you. And, it was so easy for me to drink the soda because it was here. It was in my presence. It was so easily accessible. So we have to make reversing our lifestyle, our eating habits, we have to make it less complicated. Folks, we make it hard on ourselves sometimes when we surround ourselves with a bunch of food and a bunch of things that are just simply not healthy for us. So, step number one, take inventory of your surroundings, right? Look at what's going on in your life. What do you have in your refrigerator? Do you have a whole bunch of hot dogs and hamburger buns and bread and chips and all that stuff? I strongly recommend that you get rid of the stuff. Now, if you want to donate it, donate it. If you feel some kind of way about getting rid of food, you don't want to be wasteful. Well, you know what? This would be a good time for you to donate that stuff. You don't need it. Don't think, well, I have a bunch of it. I don't want it to go to waste. So let me just go ahead and just wild out and eat this stuff and start on Monday. We all do that. Let me just enjoy myself now and eat whatever I want. And then on Monday, I'm going to start. Well, I don't want you to wait till Monday. I don't want you to wait till next week. I don't want you to wait so you can have your last hoorah with, the fellas and your friends, and you're just going to go wild out and do your cheat meal and then go at it strong on Monday in the gym and go grocery shopping, I guess, during the weekend or whatnot. Come on, folks. Listen, there's no better time to start then today, my friend, get rid of that stuff. You don't need it. Trust me, you don't need it. Then you may say, well, okay, Oscar, where do I start as far as, the foods? I mean, what things do I need to buy? You know, I would say basically, think about it like this. We need to give our bodies more of what it needs and less of what it does not need. So the things that I was encouraging to get rid of, those are the things that you really don't need. Your body really does not need. The things that your body does need are nutrients. Water, obviously, you want to keep yourself hydrated. You want to put good liquid in your body, hydrating liquid in your body. I would also say increase your intake of lean protein. Like if you're still eating animal protein, if you still like chicken, if you like beef, lamb, if you like fish, you don't have to get rid of those things. You just have to make better choices when it comes to those things. So I would not eat fried foods. I would get rid of fried foods. Let's say the fried fish, go for the baked fish instead of fried chicken. You can make some grilled chicken or go for the grilled options when you go out. You don't have to eat fried foods. There is no benefit to eating fried chicken, folks. There is no benefits to it. So, yeah, you may have a taste for something fried. But again, remember, we're talking about what you should put in your body and what your body does need. You want a healthier source of protein. Your fish, your chicken, your beef. I like lamb. I've actually been cooking more lamb lately, and I love it. I love it. It's tasty. um, Another thing that I would say is increase your carbohydrates. Now, these are the good carbohydrates. Now, people, when they hear carbohydrates, they think carbs. Oh my gosh, no, carbs are the devil. No, you have refined and ultra processed carbs and so forth, like your white breads and so forth. I'm talking about getting rid of that stuff, but replacing it with fruits and vegetables. Those are a good source of carbohydrates. Your body needs carbs for energy. Carbs are not the enemy. Okay, carbs in general are not the enemy. So you want to increase your portions of vegetables. Let's say if you have your plate, and I'm just talking about, let's say lunch or dinner, you want half of your plate to be vegetables. I know that may seem like a lot, right? Yes, it may seem like a lot at first, but trust me, your body's going to desire more. It's going to more and more desire veggies. That's how it is in my situation. So let's say half of your plate is a vegetable, right? Talking about dinner or lunch. The other half of your plate, you want to split that other half by two. And that's where you want to have your protein, like a lean source of protein. And when it comes to fat, I say lean protein, but it's okay to have some fat on your steak or something like that. Fat is not the enemy. I know that's a controversial topic for a lot of people, but I can save that for another episode. So a third, let's say that other half, you cut that into, so you have a third of your plate is a lean protein. And then you have like your starch, let's say sweet potato or something like that, where you are not overwhelming your plate with, like some people may have done, and I've done it before, where you have a little bit of vegetable and a whole bunch of protein, like 2 and 3 pieces of chicken and a whole bunch of mashed potatoes and all kind of other stuff. No, you want to do the reverse, right? So those are just some things that you want to start to consider when it comes to changing your diet around. They say it's really good to have about 3 to 5 portions, or excuse me, servings of fruits and vegetables per day. Now that may be different for some people. You may want to get more. That's why it's good to connect with a registered dietitian and a diabetes educator for your situation. And I'm going to talk about a little bit more in a little bit more about the seeking professional guidance and so forth. But in general, I would definitely stay away from the sugary drinks. I would stay away from the high carb, the highly processed carbs, as I mentioned earlier, the high sodium foods. Guys, we really don't need a lot of sodium in our diet. We really don't. I know it tastes good when we add a little bit of salt on our foods, but we absolutely do not have to have a bunch of salt on our food. Listen, I'm Caribbean. Both of my parents are from the Caribbean. My dad's Cuban, my mother's Jamaican. So Jamaican and Cuban food is full of flavor, full of seasonings. But you know what? I had to cut back on the salt. There was a period where I went maybe like a whole year or so and did not add any salt to my food. That was just a choice that I made because of what I wanted to do when it came to my health. I was dealing with some cholesterol issues and some other issues. And so I decided to cut back on the sodium, and I'm glad I did. So, in a nutshell, folks, we can make healthier choices, but I do want to say this: while you're embarking on your transformation, it's really important to keep in mind a couple of risk factors. Let's say if you just decide, I'm just going to keep eating however I want to eat, because you know what, Oscar, I think we only live once and we should just enjoy ourselves and just eat whatever we want and just have a good time. If we get sick, we get sick and we just deal with it. Well, I don't want you to have that attitude, right? I want you to achieve proper balance when it comes to your food intake and what you put in your body. So I wanted to take a few moments before I wrap up to talk about some of the risk factors when you are heavily consuming the standard American diet foods. You can be at risk for inflammation, liver disease, what they call cirrhosis of the liver, fatty pancreas, dementia, eye disorders, anemia. A lot of people are dealing with anemia, cancer, renal disease, diabetes, of course. I mean, there's a whole bunch of risks that people are dealing with because of a poor diet, folks. I mean, you're talking about cardiovascular disease. There was a time where I was having some issues with my heart, and I was like, no, I got to turn this around, folks. Tooth decay, reproductive issues, but the list goes on and on is what I'm trying to say. But you know what? We want to minimize, and I recommend that you minimize those foods that are just not healthy for you because it's creating an imbalance in your body. You may be deficient of certain nutrients and don't even realize it. You may be thinking that, oh, well, I'm just eating this regular food and I'm nourishing my body, but are you really giving your body the nutrients that it needs to sustain your life for the long haul, for longevity? So I want you to keep that in mind. The more and more you start changing your diet, the more you're going to decrease your risk of those issues, those risks that I mentioned earlier. So just really take that in mind. I want you to keep in mind that, you know what, you have this one life that you've been given. Why not live it to the fullest? You know what I'm saying? So as I wrap up, I do want to encourage you, if you are ready to seriously begin this journey, you want to change your diet, you want to live a healthier lifestyle, is going to require you to do just scratching the surface is going to require you begin making healthier choices. But with anything, you want to consult with your physician first, your primary care physician first. Because, some people get in trouble. They just go on these fad diets really quickly, these quick weight loss programs, and they end up getting sick. There's a certain eating pattern or eating lifestyle diet that some people avoid eating meat and they are protein deficient and they are mineral deficient and nutrient deficient. And they've lost a lot of weight, but they also have lost a lot of muscle and they're nutrient deficient and they're dealing with other issues, other chronic illnesses that came about because they decided, you know what, I'm just going to not eat meat and I'm only going to do this one particular thing. And they go to the extreme. And so I'm not dogging. anybody who's gone on a meatless journey. I'm just telling you that there are reports where people who don't do it um, in a smart way have developed certain deficiencies and certain disorders. So that's why I say it's important for you to get guidance from your primary care physician. You also may want to connect with a registered dietitian and nutritionist so they can help guide you, someone who's certified so they can guide you in creating meal plans that's going to work for your body. Because like I said earlier, there's not one diet plan, there's not one eating pattern that's going to work for everyone. So you got to know what's going on in your body and start making changes that are going to help you and benefit you in the long run. Folks, that's what I had to do. Yeah, there's certain things that I had to ask my physician about. Was it safe for me to do X, Y, Z? Because when you are on this journey, you're going to be bombarded with a whole bunch of solutions to do X, Y, Z. But you got to see what works for you, and so you definitely want to get guidance from a professional to help you along the way. So thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Beating Diabetes Lifestyle Podcast. My goal is to help you and to help others like you make lifestyle changes to reverse type 2 diabetes. My story is like so many people who were going through health challenges and they decided to turn their life around. Listen, there's so many people around the globe who are making changes. You can make changes too, folks. Yeah, you may have a history, your family may have a history of type 2 diabetes, but that doesn't have to be the end of your story. You can turn your life around, folks. You can make lifestyle decisions that will benefit you. And that's what I want. So, as always, folks, I want you to really, really take your health serious enough to make changes. There are people who you can impact by your life. Once they see the transformation in your life, they may be inspired to change their life as well. So, as always, my friend, stay focused, keep moving, never go back, leap forward, and bounce back because you can, my friend. And above all else, trust God. You got this. I believe in you. Be sure to visit the website at www.beatingdiabetieslifestyle.com for access to free resources and other information that will help you along your journey. If you would like to submit a question or a comment about the show or to learn more about the Beating Diabetes Lifestyle, you can always email me at hello@beatingdiabeteslifestyle.com. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to this podcast.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Beating Diabetes Lifestyle Podcast with Oscar Camejo. We hope you enjoyed this episode. As a reminder, this podcast is intended for motivational and educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional care by a physician or other healthcare professional or qualified fitness instructor. This podcast is provided on the understanding that it does not constitute medical or professional advice or services. If you're looking for help on your journey, seek a qualified medical practitioner. It's important that you utilize someone who is a trained, licensed healthcare professional who can help you on your journey toward good health.